So
Hey,
that's good. I see you fine. Hey,
I see you. I see you great as well. So this is we are live, at least in I want to say on the ICC Region 1. And if I did this right, we're on the ICC Region 1 Facebook page. So
cool.
if not, all my friends and family are getting to see Sam Palmer uh, live from Las Vegas.
It's just me and you, so all that it doesn't matter.
Well, it does allow us, so I can see comments off to the side. So if people want to comment as we go along, shouldn't take too terribly long. Actually, this is a pretty good, you got a pretty good webcam because it's pretty high quality resolution. So
Yeah. Oh, it's Razer, I think.
okay.
Yeah. They just upgraded us a little while ago with the COVID mess and everything else.
Yep, we're kind of the same way. I've got a new IBM ThinkPad, so which is kind of nice to be able to work remotely when need be. So
yep. That's a good thing.
Yep. So all right, looks like I got 4 o'clock on my clock,
Yes.
so we're gonna go ahead and go. And I can't quite see how many people are live or if there's anybody live. But one of the nice things about Facebook Live, it will allow for us to save it for posterity, and then they can rewatch it later if they would like. So, welcome, Sam. We are on the ICC Region 1 Facebook page. Just so everybody knows, Region 1 was established in 2014. And I'm getting all sorts of notifications now, so somebody's watching. Region 1 was established in 2014, and we consist of 3 states: California, Hawaii, Nevada. I come from California. Sam actually comes from Nevada. We also include 32 chapters, 32 ICC chapters. We're dedicated to excellence in education and engagement to promote a safer environment by bringing individuals together. This is our first Facebook Live event, so bear with us. I've had some technology challenges as we've gone through this, so hopefully everything's working all right. This forum was designed to highlight individuals from our various chapters that make up our region. And today we have Sam Palmer, Assistant Director of the Clark County Department of Building and Fire Prevention. Sam is also the current president for Region 1. Sam, thank you for joining us. We're going to go through a couple questions. If you have questions for Sam and things that you would like me to ask as we go along, I'm sure Sam could probably see the comments. We have a comments tab off to the right-hand side, so feel free to comment. We'll try to do our best and cover those comments as we go. So, Sam, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being our first guest on our Facebook Live forum.
Tim, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for setting this all up. That's excellent. This is a great avenue, a great way to get out in touch with everybody, especially in the Region 1 area, but throughout ICC. That's great. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see how this expands and how we can maybe touch other people that we don't typically get to see. So this is very, very interesting, very unique, and I will say that some of these different avenues that we've been provided will definitely help us as we go on. So my first question that I have for you, can you please describe your department and the area that you serve? You serve a very unique area, and I think a lot of people are going to be wanting to listen to you, especially for that area that you serve.
Overall, we're the Clark County Department of Building and Fire Prevention. About 7-8 years ago, we joined fire prevention and building sites together. And it made very good sense to us because we all do the the plans check, the engineering, the inspections, and the permitting, and it was a good combination. Out in the field, we cross paths almost daily on the different projects and whatnot between building and fire prevention. And bringing those two groups together has made a lot of sense and a lot of camaraderie. It's nice when we're all focused on the same environment and we get out there and cover the same projects. But since that time, we're about around 250-ish staff, right in that ballpark. Fire prevention is roughly around 70-ish so staff, and with that, full complement of administrators, managers, supervisors, of which some are, the engineers. We have all different types of engineers, from electrical, mechanical, building, plumbing, and then on the inspection side of the house, we have, the all different types of residential and commercial fire inspectors, and we service the whole gauntlet from 10 by 20 sheds to 60. The nice thing about Clark County is we get to cover a lot of different areas and unique structures. But Clark County itself goes all the way from Mesquite, Nevada, all the way down to Laughlin, Nevada, and it's multiple thousands of acres or miles. And it takes you about 2 hours to drive from end to end, 2.5 hours, depends on traffic. And it's a lot of wide open spaces. There's 5 jurisdictions within Clark County. We oversee Clark County unincorporated, which is about 1.3 million people out of a total population in Southern Nevada of about 2.5 million. And the other agencies, City of North Las Vegas, City of Las Vegas, City of Henderson, and City of Boulder City. And so we have a lot of counterparts that we work with also. But again, we do a full complement. We oversee the Las Vegas Boulevard, which is the Las Vegas Strip, which is where all the major casinos are, and everything roughly from about Sahara Avenue, which is about where the stratosphere sets in the actual city, south all the way down past Mandalay Bay and all the way to State Line. And so it's a wide geography. Probably one of the funnest things we do is New Year's Eve. We get to do the fireworks off of all the hotels, and wow. That's a blast.
Yeah.
But it's a large area. We got a large complement of folks. We have a few people stationed up out of Overton, Nevada, and a couple of folks stationed down in Laughlin, to help cover the area because of the expanse. And it's we do a lot of different things. It's a lot of fun.
Wow, like you said, you cover quite the wide range of areas. So, with the complement of staff that you have, how do people really come together? I mean, from engineers to inspectors and the geography that you cover, how does that, how do you bring everybody into the mix so everybody's on the same page?
Very good question. And it's very hard to do at times, but we emphasize hard that we're one team. Doesn't matter if you're building a fire, doesn't matter if you're engineer, architect, or inspector, we're one team. And our job is to service the citizens of Clark County. And we do the best thing we can do to take care of the citizens. And then we figured out behind the scenes on how to make all the paperwork, all the inspections and the plan checking and everything else work. But the critical issue is we work together. Our mantra is we don't want to lose anybody in a major building collapse or a major building fire. Now, obviously some things happen, but that's our mantra. We want to make this a safe environment. Las Vegas, Clark County is situated to the tourists. And we want to be able to the tourists to come in, have fun. Vegas is a fun town. Enjoy yourself, and and do your gambling business, your entertainment, etc., and come and have a good time, and not worry about life, fire, safety.
Right. Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing to see the area. I mean, I've been to Vegas a couple times now, and it's amazing to see kind of the different areas, and like you mentioned, some of those larger structures are definitely in the unincorporated areas of the county. You would never think that. You would think that would just be all one big area. So, yes. Number 2, the second question I have is: we all take different paths throughout our career. Can you describe your path and any notable experiences that have shaped your perspective on code enforcement?
Good question. Overall, I started out, my background, I've got a BS in geological engineering, which is a couple of classes shy of civil, a couple of classes shy of geology. And I've got a minor in environmental studies. And when I was going to school, environmental studies and the engineering / geotechnical, geological engineering didn't always see eye to eye. But and then I went on to get a master's in business. And when I started out in the business, I started out in the reservoir petroleum engineering side of the house and did a lot of field work up in Colorado and Texas. But I quickly came back home to Vegas. And at Vegas, I started out on the geotechnical and then construction materials testing, inspections, and the environmental side of the house. And inspections, I've always gravitated toward the inspection side of the house. And I enjoy seeing things built and see how things come together and things work. And through the years, I've just, we've done a lot of different structures, from airports to high rises to wastewater treatment plants to casinos to residential homes, whatever. But I've always enjoyed that construction side of it. Through the years, I got to know Ron Land, and Ron was one of the former ICC presidents. And Ron Ron ran the Clark County building department for many years. We used to tease each other, hey, why don't you come work for me? No, why don't you come work for me? And finally, I got to the point where I was tired of getting off the airplanes. I said, Ron, let's make something happen. So we came to work together, and it was just fun working with Ron because he's got such a wealth of information and knowledge and background, of ICC and the overall codes, the engineering side of it, the inspection side of it, the permitting side of it. It's just been fun. At Clark County, like I said, we get involved with a lot of different unique projects, and it's just fun to see that happen.
Yeah, well, and I think that's probably leads me into my next question is, how do you engage with ICC? We talked about you being the president of Region 1, but how else do you engage with the International Code Council?
ICC to me is a great organization for our profession. As building and fire officials and whatnot, I mean, ICC oversees is that arching reach over top of us with the codes, building codes, fire codes, etc. And I think it's important for us as the members to take care of ICC and really support it. My involvement with ICC, I currently ICC Region 1 president, did a lot of time with the Southern Nevada chapter of ICC, working through the ranks, all the different chairs for it. But I had the extreme pleasure of hosting the 2019 ICC annual business meeting here in Las Vegas. That was a lot of fun putting that program together and hosting the conference. A lot of fun. But I sit on the Major Jurisdictions Committee, and that's it's one of the main committees for ICC in regards to codes, and major being roughly 500,000 population or larger. And the Major Jurisdiction Committee is a lot of fun. You get to meet people from New York to Maine to California to Texas to Oklahoma, all over, Portland, Seattle, and get to see what's going on. And when you have questions, you can throw that out there real quick, and you can get almost instantaneous feedback from 4 or 5 different main areas of the country, so you get to see what's going on. So the MJC committee has been a lot of fun. Historically, I've sat in a lot of the exam development committees, helping out on special inspections in the geotech and the soil side of the house, concretes, welding, etc. That's always been a lot of fun for me. And I've helped out a lot of just special committees. I was the chairperson for the State Board of Nevada State Board of Engineers, which is similar to ICC, and as such, we did a lot of white papers on special inspections and the role of the special inspection and how critical that is. So the ICC is a great organization, and it's been a lot of fun contributing, and looking forward to do a lot more.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic, and to hear how ICC really spans rural locations and then to the major jurisdictions and the impact that it has, it's definitely very notable. My next question.
Your comment on rural is very good, because Nevada, we have 2 main cities, and we have a lot of rural in between, a lot of openness. And we oversee a lot of the rural areas, and people are saying, why do I have to deal with the ICC codes? I'm just a small town off the side of the road. And said, hey, since the codes are there to help protect you and protect the consumers. But in particular, if I'm coming down the highway and I pull off and I come into your motel, I expect it to be reasonably safe, fire egress, et cetera, sprinklers, whatever. And if I go into a building, I would anticipate it being very safe. I have access to exiting, et cetera. I don't, just because you live in a small town doesn't mean you get to do things your ways. And I'm very sensitive to small towns. I came from a small town and love small towns, but rural or cosmopolitan, hey, we all got to abide by the same codes.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next question would be, how long have you been in the industry? I think you've already kind of hit on this. And what are some of the biggest challenges you've seen?
30 plus years in the industry, and just enjoy it. And like I said, a lot of roots on the inspection side of the house, the geotechnical engineering side of the house, as well as the hardcore building codes and building department side of the house. But some of the challenges through the years, it's just everybody understanding what the codes are. Most of the folks coming out of school or in the trades, whatever, hardly ever get to see a building code, and that's a shame, because that's our Bible. That's what we live and die by. And people need to understand the codes and what they are and what they mean. The codes were, through history, they're basically built out of blood, because every time there's a tragic event, we would update and change the codes and bring them up to speed. But people need to understand that and appreciate the code, not fight the codes.
Right,
And
right.
if for some reason we get something wrong in the codes, well, there's a process to run through there and change the codes. Yeah. Mankind writes them, mankind can change them, but do it.
That's right. It's consensus.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As we kind of talk about the codes, it's like you just mentioned, it's always evolving. But how do you stay informed on some of the code changes? I think you talked about it with the major jurisdiction committee that you serve on, but how else do you stay informed about some of the code changes and really some of the changes with the industry?
Tough challenges. Staying abreast of all the current and latest changes and whatnot. One by email. The emails blasts come out from ICC and saying, hey, get ready for this, watch out for that. See the code proposals that are coming up. The Southern Nevada chapter, similar to many of the other chapters throughout the country, they have committees that study the changes of coming up, i.e. the 2024 coming up right now. And very similar, the LA Basin chapter has a very strong spreadsheet program for all the proposed code changes. They gather all of the agencies together. Everybody looks at the code proposals, they digest them, pull them apart, and then they do a straw vote on them. And then they tally those votes up and say, hey, Las Vegas thinks this way, San Jose thinks this way, LA thinks this way, and these codes. You don't have to follow the recommendations, but here's what the majority of the folks are thinking. And it's a great way to stay in touch and see what's current. One of the worst things, just like any time you're in an election process, is going in there cold and not knowing. And much better to take at least understand the code proposal, get a feel for the pros and the cons of it, and see how the general thinking is from the building officials and fire officials, and then make up your mind and go from there. But it's a daunting task, and it's not easy. You got to stay on top of it. But it also it contributes to the life safety of our citizens, and it's critical we maintain good codes.
Yep, I 100% agree. We kind of talked about this earlier. So, code enforcement is kind of the sum of many parts. We always try to build cooperative relationships. And how do you build those cooperative relationships and assist in administering the building and fire codes? I mean, you have several individuals that you work with that are housed within the Department of Building and Fire Prevention. So you guys all to come together. We've kind of talked about how difficult that is, but how have you kind of come together, and how do you be able to build that relationship in advance and move it forward?
You got to build the trust. You got to have the trust in the relationship. You got to know your individuals, be that your own team members or the community developers or your officials, elected officials, et cetera. You've got to build those relationships. And, I call it the old-fashioned way, but I get on the phone and I call people and talk to them. If there's an issue, I want to know directly from them, hey, what's the problem? What's going on? What are you trying to do? And if I don't have a relationship, it's a very cold call to begin with.
Yeah.
But when I have a relationship, I can say, I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Bob, hey, Mike, hey, Tom, or Susan, what's going on? What's the main issue? What's the real concern? Right. And what are you trying to do? And let's see how we can make this thing work. Most people love to send emails back and forth, and one day turns into a week, turns into a month, and you never get anything resolved. And here we're trying to help the community. As the community came together and said, we want codes, we want to make sure that our buildings are properly built and are safe and maintained. Well, then we got to work within those means, but we also got to change and update as we go along. But you got to understand what the intent is. Yep. We're working on a big major job right now that I was just on the phone with, and there was concerns about the steps in the construction and trying to get the furniture and the fixtures in there so they can start getting the process rolling to where they can start opening the doors to the public. Well, it takes time to do that, and the construction's not done yet, and yet you want to move in. Right. It doesn't work very well, and so we have to work out a compromise or a mechanism that we can resolve the issues and make sure people understand. You can't be hanging your fixtures off the ceiling because the ceiling's not signed off yet. So,
right.
Build those relationships. We're here for the community. We're here to keep it safe, but we're also here to help those projects along and drive them to completion. So not that it's hopefully it's a win-win. Sometimes it's code. Sometimes it's a definite no, but you got to be able to explain why, and that's when you got to build that relationship and have trust.
Yeah, it's always good to have those relationships ahead of time, to be able to have that, in case something like those issues arise during, whatever project it may be, then you can be able to resolve them a little bit easier as time goes on. I've definitely experienced that in my lifetime as well. So.
Well said. As the inspector, we can always say no, and and sometimes we have to say no because some issues are just that critical. But at the end of the day, what are you trying to get done, and how can we help and assist and keep this project rolling, and yet still maintain the integrity of the code?
Absolutely, 100% agree. So COVID-19 has required many of us to change our service delivery. We kind of talked about that initially as we started this conversation. How have you, as an organization, adapted and to be able to continue to deliver effective service to the community?
This whole COVID mess has been a challenge. It seems like we're getting through it. It seems like we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But from day one, it's been a challenge. One, trying to get good open communications of what's going on and how to deal with it. That's been a challenge. But from the building and fire prevention point of view, our staff has gone remote. Basically early on, everybody worked out of their trucks or from home. A few of us worked here in the building, but we all worked remotely. We tried to do everything we could by using cell phones, using FaceTime, doing video inspections, remote inspections, trying our best to keep, the 6-foot social distance, maintain the masks, and the sanitation, but trying to take care of our customers too. Life, continued on, even though we had the COVID, and trying to maintain, in the desert, when your AC goes out, you got to have air conditioning. And, trying to get those things permitted and get them back online. We did a lot of remote video, and where there's a will, there's a way. You can resolve it. But the key issue I told all the staff was, hey, first off, be safe. If you don't feel safe for whatever reason, then please don't go in. But let us know, and we'll make other arrangements. But use your phones when you're standing there on the curbside, and the customer or the contractor has a phone and they can go inside and do the FaceTime with you. Hey, that's perfect. And if we have to, then we'll do it back in the office, and they can call it in. We can work from the curbside all the way into the project, so we make sure where they're at. But FaceTime has been a lot of remote video has been a big help for us. During COVID, we finished up the Raider Stadium, the NFL Stadium here in Las Vegas. And that was a major project. There's thousands of people out there working. The contractor did a great job. They did their best to separate staff and the workers, but that was a challenge. I mean, when you're laying pipe and cable and whatnot, structural steel, you got people all over the place. And so we tried our best to maintain, the COVID safety protocols. Contractors, they had spray booths with disinfectants, et cetera. The other thing we deal with in COVID in the middle of the heat is heat stress. So we had cooling stations, et cetera, trying to cool people out and still maintain distances, whatnot. But COVID's been a challenge. On the plan side, everything we do now is electronic plan submittal. We just we bolted on ePermit Hub to Acela, and that's our new electronic plans process. And we went over almost literally overnight, went into electronic plan processing, and that was a challenge. But we worked our way through it, and we actually, in my mind, we actually did pretty good. But it was a mess trying to get, go to electronic from all paper submittal to all electronic. So between electronic permitting and remote video, that was our main ways of getting through this COVID mess.
Okay. Well, yeah, no, and I think that, we all kind of had to make those changes really overnight. And some of them worked well. Some of them was a trial by error, and we did the best that we can. So in speaking of some of those changes, what changes do you think will be permanent? Anywhere from video inspection, as you mentioned, to also doing, some of those electronic plan reviews. I know in our office, we'll likely continue with electronic plan reviews and the electronic submittals. That seems to actually be providing a little bit more advanced and higher level of service. So what do you think are some of those other permanent changes that we may see as we move forward?
Totally agree. Electronic plan processing, I think that's here to stay. At least in particular for our agency, it's definitely here to stay. So, I mean, everything you bring in has got to be electronically submitted. It's a pain up front, and we're still new to the process. But give it a year or so, and when we're all the customers, all versed in it, I think it'll be much better. But the electronic plan submittal, it forces all of us to get our act together, get our plans together, submit them in a very logical process, and get them inputted and uploaded so that we can do our reviews. And and along with it, actually helps everybody do the right things. So I think e-permitting is here to stay. The remote video, I'm a firm proponent of remote video. Now, it's not for every job out there. No, it's for good, simple jobs that don't require a complex view, don't require an intense evaluation. I'm talking water heaters, HVAC changeouts, etc. But it has a very good purpose, and we've always had, and I'm sure we'll continue, our Saturday residential home inspections. For the customers that are trying to change out hot water heaters, water softeners, etc. They don't want to wait around. They don't want to have to waste a day's vacation during the week, to get us in there. Now with remote video, we can do the simple things and take good care of them.
Right.
But on the remote video, the best example I give you of that, a couple of years ago, we had a couple go into one of the home improvement stores, and they bought an InstaHeat hot water heater, and the salesman over this, these things are simple to install. Well, he was elderly. They took it back up to the mountain, up to Mount Charleston, and they installed the InstaHeat, 2-story cabin, garage downstairs where they put the InstaHeat, living area up above the garage. Well, sure enough, it wasn't very long after they had the InstaHeat installed by themselves. He comes stumbling out the front door. Just so happens that the neighbor next door is there, sees him, runs over to help him, and then he runs inside and grabs the wife, brings her out, and we take one quick look at the InstaHeat down below. He never vented it to the exterior.
Oh, wow.
All the gaseous materials coming up and working its way up through the ceiling into the living space. It would have taken a knowledgeable inspector 2 seconds on a video to look at that and say, whoa, wait a second, you're not vented. And that's probably one of the best examples I can give for remote video. I want to put a trained set of eyes on that for 15 seconds just to take a quick look and make sure it's safe. Now, I'm not going to do cheat and shear inspections, et cetera, but that's a different story. But there is a purpose for it. So those two items, e-permitting and remote video, I think very well there. Drone work, we'll see what happens in the future for drones. There's a lot of questions about security and invasion of privacy, et cetera. But they do have an application, especially in times of natural disaster. But those two big issues, I think, are here to stay.
Okay. No, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think that I would agree with you. We have not necessarily embarked too much on the video inspections, but more on the e-permitting. That's kind of where we're at with it so far. I think that there are, for us, there are areas that we could definitely expand into that video inspection platform. So either through FaceTime or Google Duo or any of those other services that are provided out there. So
some of these remote areas that we have, we're an hour or two out before we can get to somebody up in the hills and make something simple. Alaska, Oregon, Washington, when they've got to travel 3 or 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours to get someplace, do a hot water heater inspection. That's rough. When they can do a FaceTime, that's a lot easier.
Well, and if you could do that re-inspection to be able to see if they've made the necessary corrections to be able to sign off on that permit, and really save you the time and the resources to send somebody up there, that if they've got to travel multiple hours, that is definitely a godsend. So
good point. Yep.
Yeah. So data collection obviously is becoming more and more important as we take a look at COVID-19. As like fire agencies, we do community risk reduction surveys and identify where our risk is. What metrics do you use to evaluate to ensure that you're meeting the needs of the community?
Well, probably one of the metrics, we have our own monthly management reports, what we call our metrics. But probably the key issue there we have is good open communications with the main groups. The Southern Nevada Home Builders, the Nevada Contractor Association, the Downtown Hotel Resort Quarters. We're in good constant contact with the main players in town on what's up, how are we doing, how's things looking, and what are the major concerns. And that gives us real good feedback. Obviously when we're on on a specific job site, if something goes wrong, we'll hear about it real quick, and then we're going to adjust. But
Right.
the key thing to me is staying abreast. The key metrics is on the plan check side of the house. It's important to understand how many permits are we kicking out the door. I understand that, but more importantly, the first review, second review, and if need be, third review. What are those turnarounds looking like?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the accuracy of our plan review? Making sure that a supervisor puts a set of eyes on 10% of the plans and double checks our plan reviews, make sure things are going well. Same thing on the engineering, and same thing on the inspection side. Inspections. How many inspections are we doing per inspector per day?
Right.
We try and average on the building side around 35 plus minus inspections per inspector per day. Now, if I go to one stop, i.e. an apartment complex, and I got 20 inspections, well, I could probably do those in a couple hours. But
Right.
when our guys are doing 35 to 50 inspections a day and they got 20, 25 stops, that's a lot. We try and keep it around that 35 and around 10 to 15 stops. So that's one of the key metrics we look at, and also rollovers. What permits could we not get to that were scheduled for that day, and we had to roll them over to the next day for inspections? That's
Mm-hmm.
a critical check. And then yearly, we try our best to get with the home builders and the contractors, and we try and come up with our top 10 list of what we see that's been the major headaches, on our inspections. You're missing this or that or whatever it may be. And we also look for the, feedback from the customers. What you think we're too picky on, and what's been some of the headaches we've seen. So we try.
Well, hopefully they don't say everything. Hopefully they at least engage and they have specific instances. So
yeah. And it's a good two-way dialogue. We got to be. We're not buddy, but at the same time, we're professionals. We're here, and again, our job is life safety. We want to make sure that the citizens are taken very good care of.
Yep.
At the same time, we want construction to continue. Absolutely, we're part of the community.
Yeah, and I think you hit. NFPA talks about it being what is an ecosystem. I think they've kind of gone to that model, and that's the thing. We understand that we're a cog in this overall machine, and how do we keep it from keep it running and still maintain life safety? And I think you hit on it, and identifying, hey, what are we doing to be able to make improvements in our area? And I think it's great that you guys talk to the Home Builders Association, to contractors, and really do that survey of how can we really improve and how can we make things better, not only just for us, but also the customer. What improvements can we make? And I think that, I don't ever want to lose sight of that, because that's really who we're here to serve, and, be able to make a change and make it a little bit better. So that's outstanding.
Absolutely. Small businesses, I can go in there with my code book and I can probably spend 2 weeks in a small business, looking at things. That's not the intent. The intent is to keep the life safety priority and make sure that we get the system safe and get them going. We want those doors open just as much as the owners do, to get, let them do their business and take care of the citizens. It's just that critical.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, I 100% agree. So we've already kind of hit on this last question, but we might be able to expand a little bit more. So we talked about technology and how it's really become essential, and how we do a lot of e-permitting, video conferencing. Are there any other areas that you're exploring as we continue to advance through, let's say, COVID-19 and the response to COVID-19? But as we continue to advance, are there any other areas you're looking at maybe adding to and expanding into?
Good, very good question. One of the key issues we're having trouble with, and I think most firms is the next generation, trying to find good, qualified, skilled individuals to come through and replace those that are retired, I say that, and yet at the same time, when some of our internal or our hiring processes on the engineering side of the house, we've had a handful of very good applicants. But on the inspection side of the house, we've had a tough time trying to find qualified inspectors with ICC certs, et cetera. So, building up our repertoire of skilled individuals, we're learning to bring in interns, bring them into the staff level, the junior levels, get them hands-on training, work them through the system, then become a senior inspector, and then a senior inspector, and then a commercial combo inspector, work them through that system and get them trained up. People are still our main business, and we got to get the right folks with the right attitudes and the right skill set and get them into the business. That's a key issue. The staying on top of the codes. We talk about the code hearings and everything else. That's our lifeblood, and we got to have codes that make good sense. We can't just listen to one group or the other group. We got to find a code that meets the intent of what we think is proper and that protects life and safety. And if we get the codes way swung one way or the other, we have the potential to really mess things up. We've got to have good people with good heads, good thinking heads on their shoulders to look at those codes and make sure that what we've written and what we're doing makes good sense.
Yeah.
It drives the whole show. And if we get the codes way too tight, we'll slow down or stop industry. And that's not good either.
Right.
We've got to have good logical codes that are out there. That's probably one of the next key concerns I think about for the future. Staying on top of the new technology, the new materials, construction materials that are out there, the new concretes and steels and whatnot. That's it. To me, it's a lot of fun, but that takes a lot of work to stay on top of that and get used to that next generation. We talk about new stuff, and then we turn around and we talk about tiny homes, 400 square feet or less. Hey, that's going to be popular. And I see that coming down the pipe very, very, very quick. Us as citizens of our community, we got to see what we like and what we need to take care of. Tiny homes is a popular item that we need to worry about. Energy efficiency, the homes or the structures, whatever it may be. If we can save the energy and hopefully put that to good use elsewhere, on the long run, we'll all benefit. Yeah. But wildland urban interface. We live in the desert down low here, but we also have areas up in the mountains with high trees. We got to worry about that interface. And you look at some of the fires that California has suffered through. Wow, man, God bless, because those have been horrific. And that's we're not going to stop Mother Nature in the fires, but we hope that we can help that interface and help save a few structures, and in particular save lives. So there's a lot of things that we need to be looking ahead in the future to, and that's just a few of them.
Yeah, and I think that you hit on it. Personnel is kind of one of those areas where we can, I don't want to say maybe continue to increase, but maybe try to find ways we can engage some younger individuals and be able to kind of train them to be anywhere from engineers, but also, you need that inspection piece, and you need to have somebody that has that ability to make that connection and be able to work with people to be able to identify what needs to be done. And I think that that's one of the pieces that, we're kind of missing. And I think you hit on, you talked about it and how you're trying to expand those areas. And, I know that there are some agencies that are trying to send people through school and trying to, send them through school and then bring them in to be able to train them on the different facets of inspections, which is outstanding. So I think that there's always room, and it's always interesting to hear how other places are doing it. So, and that's what we're here for. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, the building and fire profession is a great career field to get into. And we're thinking domestically here nationally. We're not even thinking internationally. We ICC as a whole to bring in the understand what the international community is doing, and see what's going on. The Greenfield Towers, and those casualties, whatnot with the cladding. That's something we all need to pay attention to and learn. But we can learn from each other, and that's a critical thing. We need to make sure we're not making the same mistakes. Someplace in this world we may make it once, but we need to learn from that and keep pushing ahead. But that comes back to having good people with good connections and the desire to learn. And I help out at some of the local high schools and the local college. I tell you what, we got some great students coming through, and it's good to see people worry about the next generation and whatnot. No, I think we got a great next generation coming up. Yeah. We just gotta get them into our industry and keep it running.
Yep. How do we kind of provide them with a little bit of direction and get them to show the value in what we do, and sometimes it's like you people, I don't want to say they cringe when they see us coming, and that's not what I want. I want somebody to understand that we're there to help them and try to do what we can. And so how can we better, address those situations when we can? So
yeah, very well said. Well said. We get everybody a badge.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not always the best thing. Well, Sam, that's all the questions that I had. I really want to thank you for taking time out of your day to share with us and then share with ICC Region 1 and all the people. I see that Jim Sayers commented on here. He was watching. I don't know if he's still on, but at least he commented and he said, nice job. So that's good to see. So, if anybody has any, if anybody wants to recommend a guest for any upcoming forums, we'd like to continue to do these because I think that it does a good job where we can reach out and we can touch different ICC chapters across the region. And so if that's the case, or if you would like us to maybe reach out to other members across the country, it's one of those things that we're here to do it. And I think that we're going to be better for it, especially as we move forward. So
united we stand. We build those relationships. I was on the LA chapter basins call the other day, and they had ADUs, and I said, "What's and it's accessory dwelling units. Oh, you mean a casita, family home, mother-in-law quarter, etc." Yep. Okay, I understand that, but you all, the California codes are deep into that, and there's a lot we can pull from, and we build those relationships. We don't have to reinvent the wheel and keep going, but we build those relationships, and when you have questions, we reach out and touch each other and say, hey, what do you do about this or that? And that's one of the beauties of our profession, and that we need to expand upon.
Yep.
But Tim, thank you very much. Glad to be here, and great show, and we'll look forward to seeing many more folks on here.
All right, I appreciate it, Sam. Thank you, and have a good rest of your day.
You too. Catch up to you. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.